Hey everyone, Mike Miller with the Herald Times, columnist Jeremy Price, back at Assembly Hall. IPFW was here. It was a game. It was a career game.
There weren't a whole lot of people here to see it.
No, it wasn't. We'll get into that in a minute. Just kind of another weird night at Assembly Hall, to be quite honest.
And it was on BTN Plus, so probably not a lot of people saw it on TV tonight either. So
replay at Thursday at 10 o'clock, I think, is the replay.
Yes.
You might want to check that, but I think
so you can see if what we say is true or not then.
Until then, it's absolutely correct. There's no refuting it. It's just this is the way it happened. A 90-65 win over IPFW. Career night for Yogi Ferrell, Troy Williams, and our new pal, Harrison Nigo.
Who saw that coming?
Not I.
No, me.
not
me neither.
Tom did either. Let's start with Nigo.
That sounds like a good place to start.
This is a fun place to start. So basically, what happens here is James Blackman gets into some early foul trouble. Robert Johnson gets into a little bit of early foul trouble too. Although James Blackman, I think, had 3 fouls by the under 8 timeout in the first half. I think Johnson had 2 at that same period. So they were a little thin. Harrison Nigo. It's Nigo. First time I talked to the guy, that was like my first question. How do I pronounce your name correctly? Because I want to make sure I get this correctly. It's Nigo. Harrison Nigo. Anyway.
Glad you've got it now.
After 6 tries, I got it. Harrison Nigo comes in right after the under 8 timeout in the first half. Really just to kind of to buy some minutes there for Blackman and Johnson, I guess, respectively. Comes in and frankly played fine for a preferred walk-on. I mean, they played kind of what you expected. Plays hard. He really understands. I don't want to go through cliches, but he's
too late.
He was a guy, honestly, who had scholarship offers to a couple not Ivy League schools, but he had offers at Ivy League schools. He had scholarship offers at a few other mid-majors in the MAC. He could have gone and played basketball and been maybe a high rotation guy at a few other places. Wanted to come to Indiana, went to Nick Zeisloff's high school up in, I guess that's the Chicagoland area, I guess that qualifies, and kind of signed on with Indiana as a preferred walk-on in the spring. He's seen some minutes, obviously, at the end of games, but today was the first instance of him coming in the first half. Really, I think one of the takeaways for me, I think, is just the will to play hard defensively. I think we kind of saw that on that end of the floor more than anything else. If you look at the stat sheet, beyond the rebounds, his 4 rebounds were actually doubled what Thomas Bryant did tonight.
That's right.
But kind of beyond the box score, I just think the way he played defensively and kind of brought that tenacity, that aggression, that edge that Indiana's kind of been looking for at times.
Yeah, what he really brings is he has a fearlessness about him. He's not afraid to, whether it's going sailing out of bounds and breaking the chair on the sideline or grabbing 4 rebounds somehow. I really don't know how that guy grabs 4 rebounds in 12 minutes, to be honest with you, but and pick up his first career assist tonight. But he just puts himself in the right position defensively. He puts his teammates in the right position offensively. He's just not going to make the mistake, basically, is what it boils down to. And frankly, on this team could use a little bit of that. As a matter of fact, if a little bit of that rubbed off on some other guys, I think that would be a good thing. I mean, it seems like this team is so full of the high-risk, high-reward, up-down roller coaster type stuff, whether it's Troy Williams, James Blackman, whatever. I mean, they're just a little more consistency that the Harrison Nigo brings is really what this team needs. And so tonight was a perfect situation, though. It was a perfect storm. He wasn't going to be outmatched athletically by IPFW, so it was a much more comfortable situation for him that way. Indiana wasn't going to hurt itself by putting him on the floor in that situation. And as it turned out, Nigo was plus 10 while he was on the floor tonight. Indiana was plus 10 with him on the floor. So not only did he maintain the advantage Indiana had, he helped them build the advantage, especially in that first half.
Yeah, just did make a lot of mistakes. The ball moved pretty well through him on offense, and again, defensively, he was just kind of there, kind of doing what he could to kind of stay in position. But this night was not solely belonging to Harrison Nigo. Career high 38 points for Yogi Ferrell, 4 shy of tying Steve Alford's building record of 42. Troy Williams got in the mix too, had a double-double in the first half, finished with 15 points, 19 rebounds, career high in rebounds, and also in 5 blocks. He also had 5 turnovers.
Wouldn't expect anything less, would you?
Troy. But the funny thing was, granted, you tip your cap to these guys for doing what they did, career nights for both of them. I guess maybe we're both in agreement. It just seemed like it was weird in the way that it happened. It just kind of seems like it did happen. I mean, granted, This is against IPFW. This is a team that did not really test either of those guys. It just kind of came about. It wasn't. I've seen Yogi Ferrell. I've seen Troy Williams play a lot better.
Yeah.
But tonight, statistically, this is a heck of a night for them.
And typically, you would think if Yogi Ferrell's scoring the ball at that rate, and Troy Williams is rebounding the ball at that rate, you'd expect this to be one of those games where the snowball's just rolling downhill for Indiana. And it would for, a minute or two at a time, but it never really was a sustained momentum kind of thing. They'd build the lead to 20, and then IPFW would get it back down to 15, and then back to 20, and so forth in the second half. So that was sort of what made it strange a little bit, was just sort of the stop and start sort of nature of things. And then for Troy, I mean, the night didn't really not start off well for him at all. He had a couple early turnovers, missed a couple of layups, finally made an and one down here early on. And for those of us sitting down at that end of the court, the look on his face was just kind of like, finally, whatever kind of thing going on. Just the vibe wasn't real good early. And then all of a sudden he started grabbing rebounds, and it was like, oh, nobody's going to challenge me to grab these rebounds. This is easy. And he just sort of got rolling with it and got that attacking mindset, which that's the one you want to see against Duke or whoever, not just against the IPFWs of the world.
Yeah, you mentioned the stop and start. We'll get to that latter point in just a moment. The stop and start was a big part of it. IU was, 22-30 from the free throw line. Troy Williams only had 4 field goals. He was 4 for 11. Mm-hmm. You talk about the early layups. He missed some late layups, too. He was missing shots all night. But I think what you say about just bringing the aggression, it's kind of almost a fresh start for Indiana right now. That kind of began last Saturday against Morehead mm-hmm. State. This is a stretch that we kind of talked about after that game, a stretch where they could really pick up some W's, get some momentum, which I think is really important, just to kind of raise the confidence of this team after they were kind of beaten down over 2 straight weeks. This is almost kind of a new season, and to kind of get that aggression, to kind of get that tenacity, that focus that kind of translates to both ends, I think is important no matter who the opponent is or what they're doing or who they're doing it against. The thing now is just to be able to spin it forward and kind of do this not just against McNeese State, but against Notre Dame after that. That's kind of where this team is as they kind of wade through these last 3 or 4 non-conference games to really, truly hit their stride at the start of Big Ten play in 3 weeks.
Yeah, there were a lot of good stats as we've talked about tonight, but I think there's still some concerning things as well. Yeah. The defensive effort level wasn't at the level it was against Morehead State tonight by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, I would say most of the first half was rather uninspired for the most part.
Oh, yeah. Look at how they kind of got... the stop and start nature of it. There were so many open looks there in the second half that kind of led to some open shots from deep, from 3, from just long 2s, or even just driving to the basket once again. They only had, 26 points in the paint. Yeah. But the timely nature of some of those just kind of came on the heels of an open 3 or shots like that.
And then the turnover thing again. Yeah. Indiana commits 17 tonight, only forces 14. I don't think this team can live with committing more turnovers than its opponent. With the exception of these kind of games, that's not going to work for this team this year. So, some concerning things. It's not all gumdrops and rainbows and stuff, but I guess few people walk out of this building feeling good about their nights. And
there were very few people who walked out of this building. It was probably half full.
Yeah,
quite honestly.
That's true.
It's about 9,000, 10,000 tops. I'm not sure.
I don't think it hit 10,000.
I'm not sure. I'd
say in the 8 to 9 range would be my guess.
A
new low in the ebb of this season, and I'm not sure. I don't know. Saturday will be interesting because it's a Saturday, so that's both a blessing and a curse at this time of year where you've got family get-togethers, holiday parties, all that kind of stuff going on. So I don't know. We may see a new low on Saturday again. Before things pick up.
Yeah, I don't know many people who really want to make the drive. For us local guys, it's not a big deal, but making the drive down here for the IPFWs of the world, these states of the world.
Yeah, and IPFW had a fair amount of
they did actually.
people here tonight, too. So
they did, but kind of knowing what IPFW is, if I'm a Hoosier fan, I'm not sure I'm driving from far reaches to come and watch this game on a Wednesday night. So
Right.
But anyway, we've probably said enough about this game. Let's forget it, because we will. Forgetting anything.
There's going to be a lot of guys that have IPFW in their career high bios next game.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, Max Bielfeld. Didn't mention him. Another steady night for this guy.
Yeah.
5 for 7, typically efficient, 8 rebounds, 11 boards.
You can pretty much pencil at this point. You can pretty
That's
much pencil Bielefeld in 8 to 12 points, 6 to 8 rebounds. 0 turnovers.
He's exactly what they thought what he'd be, and that's perfect. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, how many minutes he wind up with tonight?
19.
19. Bryant only had 18 minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised as the season goes on. I mean, you could potentially see Bielefeld with more minutes than Bryant, just the way things have been going, I think.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Got to keep Bryant healthy, too.
Yeah. And Tom Crean mentioned that he's been dealing with some
for a couple
injury
weeks
stuff for a while now, and they're trying to get him healthy and whatnot. So
it seems almost nagging at this point, because when you go back to he really, I guess, injured the foot second practice of the year in October, and
he also had the wrap on the left wrist
right.
for a while too. I don't know what the status of that is. He hasn't been wearing anything on it.
So that is a little worrisome as you realize that it's not even this season's not even a month old, it's not a month old yet. And it's a lot of ball to be played, and kind of knowing the way this team plays down the stretch. And granted, that freshman wall, you want to keep him as fresh as possible moving forward. So we'll see.
And you kind of wonder if it's that nagging. I mean, would McNeese State be a game to keep him out and just rest him? I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt Indiana too much if they have to go more Bielefeld and maybe throw a little more OG Anunoby in there on Saturday. I think they can manage.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll have Ryan Burton back too. Burton didn't play tonight. He was sick. But I'm sick of talking about it.
Okay. We're done then.
See you guys.